My parents forced me and my little sister into 14-hour shifts in their coal mine, saying we owed them everything. Haley's hands bled. I collected evidence. That was 2 months ago. Now, my dad's facing federal charges, and my mom's being sued for coercive control. They never saw it coming. I still remember the first morning Dad led us down into the mine, saying it was a legacy, not a punishment. His tone was calm, but his grip on my shoulder was like steel. The shaft's darkness swallowed us as Mom gave one of her creepy smiles and whispered, "You'll thank us one day." I nodded, numb, dragging Haley behind me. I didn't realize then that we weren't daughters, we were workers, tools in their coal mine of control. One evening, Haley collapsed from exhaustion. Her fingers were raw, her lips cracked. Dad didn't flinch, he just barked for me to pick up her slack. I wrapped her in my jacket, shielding her from his shadow as Mom muttered, "She's just lazy." That night, I stayed awake beside Haley in the bunkhouse, listening to the mine groan above us. For the first time, I whispered, "I'm getting you out, no matter what it takes." As winter set in, our shifts stretched past midnight, and rations were halved. Haley's cough worsened, but Dad dismissed it with his usual snarl, "She needs to toughen up." I begged Mom to let her rest. Her response was a chilling whisper, "Pain builds character," delivered with that manipulative smirk I'd come to dread. I started hiding food for Haley, tracking her symptoms in secret. When I confided in Uncle Mark, he seemed concerned until I overheard him later joking with Dad about training us like wild dogs. My stomach turned. That night, I started documenting everything. The cold dust in my notebook stuck like guilt. I needed proof. But I wondered, who could I actually trust in this family? I reached out anonymously to a local advocate, Catherine, posing as a friend seeking help. She responded quickly, offering to meet quietly outside town. I felt a flicker of hope. But days later, Mom started interrogating Haley about someone snooping around. The timing chilled me. Could Catherine be a trap, or did someone else betray us? Meanwhile, Tom, an old mine tech Dad fired months ago, reappeared near the entrance, claiming he was just checking on the generators. But his warning eyes said more. "Be careful," he whispered to me when no one looked. That night, I hid our recordings deeper. The coal mine didn't just bury ore. It buried secrets, and Haley's fever kept climbing. I clenched my jaw. We were running out of time. It happened in the mine's central shaft right where Dad always stood, barking orders like a tyrant. I'd rigged a GoPro under my jacket, heart pounding with each step. Haley had passed out mid-shift, and I carried her limp body toward the entrance. Dad blocked me, shouting, "She doesn't leave until the quota's filled." His breath reeked of coal and cruelty. I shouted back, louder than I'd ever dared, "She's a child, not your damn mule." His hand raised, and for a split second, I braced for pain. But I didn't back down. "Touch me and I'll release everything, videos, files, names. CPS, FBI, you'll rot under this mountain." His smirk cracked just slightly, then Mom appeared behind him. Her coal mine of control, line slithering off her tongue again like poison. But this time, I looked straight at her and said, "Not anymore." For the first time, she blinked. I stepped past them, Haley in my arms and into the fading light. We made it to the town's clinic, my arms aching, Haley semi-conscious. I handed over the flash drive to the intake nurse, whispering, "Evidence, please protect us." But less than an hour later, 2 men in suits entered. One flashed a badge, Child Services. Relief washed over me until the other introduced himself as a state liaison, and said my parents had reported me for abduction and mental instability. "You've been overworked," he said with that practiced, patronizing tone. "We'll sort this out." I stood frozen as they led Haley away. Mom arrived minutes later, delivering her usual line. "Coal mine of control builds discipline," to the nurse like it was gospel. Her manipulative charm worked. The staff looked unsure. I begged, pleaded, even showed the bruises on Haley's arms. They nodded and told me to wait. That wait turned into 8 days of silence, 8 days of hell, 8 days where I thought I'd failed her forever. I tried contacting Catherine again, but her number was suddenly disconnected. Desperate, I messaged Tom, only to find his reply vague. "You stirred something too deep." My chest tightened. I raced to the county office for any legal records tied to my parents, but a clerk whispered, "Files went missing last week." I turned cold. Someone was scrubbing their tracks, and I didn't know who to trust. Even the doctor who once treated Haley suddenly denied knowing us. The coal wasn't the only thing buried in that mine, truth was too. I returned home only to find my room ransacked, my journals gone, and in their place, a single photo of Haley with "liar" scrawled across it in red ink. Then the phone rang. Mom's voice slithered through. "No one believes you, sweetie. They know what you are." Her sickening calm sent chills down my spine. Every call to the local authorities ended the same: apologies, delays, transfers. Someone was pulling strings. Coal mine of control wasn't just words. It was a system, a fortress. I was screaming, but the world heard static. While pacing outside the courthouse, unsure who would even listen, a janitor I hadn't seen before slipped me a folded note. "Ask for file 47. B. Trust no one." I turned, but he vanished into the crowd. Heart racing, I made my way to the public records room. Behind locked drawers and fake indexes, I found it. A sealed envelope marked with my mother's maiden name. Inside, birth records, financial transfers, custody overrides, all forged and signed, with Dad's handwriting. The system wasn't failing me. It had been built to protect them. The documents were worse than I feared. One page listed Haley and me as assets under family management, with labor output logged monthly since we were 5. A separate contract tied our social security numbers to a mining grant fund, meaning our childhoods were bankrolled and sold. I dropped the folder, hands trembling. It wasn't just abuse, it was trafficking paper, cloaked slavery. The phrase coal mine of control suddenly felt less metaphor and more legal strategy. They hadn't just used us. They'd owned us, and the state had helped. I finally tracked down Catherine at a quiet cafe miles out of town. Her eyes widened when she saw me, but not with relief, with fear. You weren't supposed to dig that deep, she whispered, glancing around. That's when I saw it. The same mining company logo on her keychain, identical to the one stamped on Dad's financial files. You worked for them, I said, voice shaking. She didn't deny it. They fund half the county, she said softly. You go public, and they'll bury you too. My last safe place had collapsed. I stumbled out of the cafe, bile rising in my throat. Every contact I thought I could trust had folded into their machine. I wandered aimlessly until I found myself back at the mine's edge, the shaft yawning open like a mouth ready to devour me again. For a terrifying moment, I considered jumping in. Maybe then, they'd notice. Maybe Haley would be freed. But a faint chime from my phone stopped me, a message from an unknown number. We see you, you're not alone. For the first time in weeks, I hesitated. The message led me to an encrypted forum run by whistleblowers, miners, medics, even ex-administrators who'd escaped the same control systems, hidden across small towns. One woman, Miriam, messaged me privately. I worked that same mine. I know your parents. She sent surveillance footage from 5 years ago, Haley chained to a cart, Dad shouting, Mom logging timesheets. My blood boiled. Miriam added, we've been waiting for someone like you, someone still inside. My fingers trembled as I typed back, then help me burn this empire down before they erase her too. With Miriam's guidance, I posed as a clerk and accessed the mine's internal database through an abandoned admin login. Buried deep, I found digital logs, medical refusals, disciplinary actions, labor hours. Each file tagged with our names, mine and Haley's. I downloaded everything and sent backups to the network. Upload in waves, Miriam said. They'll try to suppress it. That night, I stayed in a motel under an alias, watching the first leak go live. Inside the coal mine of control, views skyrocketed. The silence was finally cracking, and they'd hear every word. By morning, my motel door was broken open. Files scattered, laptop gone. A message carved into the wall read, silence is survival. I bolted, heart thundering, racing to the nearest public library to warn Miriam. Her reply came swift. They found you. Go dark now. But it was too late. News of the leak had reached national reporters, and also my parents. Dad called from a blocked number, his voice no longer calm but furious. You think this ends with clicks and pity, he growled. You declared war, girl. Let's see who bleeds first. I didn't run. I called the local news station myself. I'm the whistleblower, I said, and I have more. They hesitated until I played the audio, Dad barking orders, Haley crying, Mom calmly stating, she doesn't stop unless she bleeds. The anchor turned pale. We'll air it tonight. Miriam coordinated the other survivors, flooding networks with parallel stories. Hashtags exploded. Support poured in from activists, child protection groups, even a few senators. For the first time, my voice wasn't alone. It echoed. The coal mine of control was cracking under the weight of truth. The district attorney reached out within 48 hours. We've opened an investigation, she confirmed. I handed over everything, files, footage, names. But that night, my face appeared on a smear blog, claiming I'd faked the evidence for online clout. The posts used doctored images, and worse, quotes twisted from my childhood journals. I froze. Only my parents had those. It was retaliation, designed to discredit me before I could testify. They're coming at you legally, Miriam warned, and psychologically. I gritted my teeth. Let them, I wasn't breaking. I was just beginning. I arranged a livestream interview with an independent journalist known for exposing corruption. I brought the original audio files, time, stamped footage, and most damning of all, a notarized payroll list with Haley's name on it at age 6. As I played each clip, the journalist's face hardened. This is child labor, enslavement. Within hours, the segment went viral. Public outrage boiled over, celebrities tweeted, protesters stood outside the courthouse, the phrase coal mine of control became a national scandal. And for the first time, my parents had nowhere to hide. Just as charges were filed, I received a call from Catherine, shaky, remorseful. Your judge, he's in their pocket. He signed mining grants years ago. My blood ran cold. The trial hadn't even begun, and it was already poisoned. At the preliminary hearing, Judge Halston smiled with that same smug familiarity Dad wore. Let's not waste the court's time on family squabbles, he said, brushing aside the footage. My fists clenched. The system wasn't broken, it was complicit, but I had one last card to play. I just needed the right witness. As the courtroom tension thickened, the door creaked, and Haley stepped in, bruises fading but fire in her eyes. I want to testify, she said. The judge scoffed, but the gallery erupted. She took the stand and described every shift, every slap. Every night she cried herself to sleep in the coal dust. They never loved us, she whispered, voice steady. They owned us. The jury sat stunned. Even the reporters stopped typing. For once, my sister's voice wasn't drowned by their control. It was louder, stronger, unbreakable. After the trial adjourned, I sat alone on the courthouse steps, clutching a lump of coal I'd pocketed the day we escaped. It used to symbolize punishment, a life buried under their coal mine of control. Now, it reminded me of Haley's voice shaking the walls inside that courtroom. I turned it over in my palm. Rough, black, but no longer menacing, just real. We survived something most wouldn't believe. I whispered, we're not their property anymore. And for the first time, that truth didn't tremble. It rang steady, solid mine. I watched Haley sleep that night, her breath finally calm, her fists no longer clenched in her sleep. We were in a shelter miles away, but peace had nothing to do with the walls. It was in the silence, no orders. No drills, just breathing. I whispered, "You're safe." Not as a promise, but as a vow I'd earned. I thought love was obedience. They taught me that, but love is protection. Love is screaming into the dark and dragging someone back into the light, even if your own hands bleed. A month later, the verdict dropped like a hammer, guilty on all counts. Dad was sentenced to 20 years for child endangerment and forced labor. Mom received 12 for psychological abuse and fraud. As they were led away in cuffs, I didn't cheer. I didn't cry. I simply stared as their power evaporated under courtroom lights. The phrase "coal mine of control" flashed across every headline. No longer a family slogan now, evidence. The community turned, donations came in, Haley and I were no longer alone. Justice hadn't just arrived. It had thundered in. Haley and I planted a garden behind our new apartment, tiny, messy, but ours. Each hole in the soil felt like a scar we chose to fill. She laughed when a sunflower sprouted, brighter than anything we'd seen underground. "It's ugly," she joked, "but it's free." I smiled, handing her a lump of coal we kept not as a curse, but a reminder. "This used to mean chains," I said. "Now it means choice. We didn't just survive, we reclaimed, and this time no one would bury us again."